Hi, everyone. Welcome back for Waiver Wire Week 11. I am one of your hosts, JP Damon or Dapscout, and I'm joined by, and always, by my co-host. I don't care if he does any other shows. He's mine only. That's Jason Beckner, JR Becks on Twitter. Hey, Jason, how's it going this morning?
What's going on, JP? It's kind of crazy. Week 11 here we are. We're just chugging along. It's like, so we're getting into those days of fantasy baseball. It's like, man, I'm still checking my lineup. I'm still running waivers. It's we're in those days now. Week 11, we still got we're not even halfway yet. So make sure you're coming back every week to check out these videos.
And it seems like nobody's safe. I mean, honestly, you try to get comfortable with a player and then you realize, oh no, the reason why he was in the lineup is because this other player was injured, and suddenly they're coming back and you're checking the waiver wire suddenly. And that's something that I've come to realize about fantasy baseball. You can never get comfortable, except with the superstars, right? Like the Cuñas of the world and things of that nature. But, anybody else, you're kind of looking at like, okay, why are they in the lineup? Is it because somebody's injured? You really have to constantly be ready to jump on the waivers. And, this is why we're here to help. So as always, we're brought to you by fantasy6pack.net. Please come over and check out all of our rankings because they were ranked number 1 by Fantasy Pros as the most accurate rankings last year. So definitely want to check that out. It'll help you in your fantasy league and become a subscriber. Becoming a subscriber allows you to have access to articles that we put behind a paywall, and also our Discord. Now, the Discord continues to be just a tool for a lot of our subscribers to reach out to analysts like myself, Jason, and a whole host of others. Also on the fantasy football side and golf and DFS and all those different areas as well. You really have a chance to talk to the analysts and dive deep, and that's only available to our subscribers. So, please check us out, and subscribe today. As we start off the show, and as we've continued to do as kind of a tradition here, we hit you over the head with a player that absolutely should be on your team. This player, I just was blown away by his ownership percentage. We checked it before the show, so this is pretty up to date. It's as of 10 minutes ago. Less than 20% owned, and that is our friend Jake Burger. I have no idea, none whatsoever, why Jake Burger has such a low ownership percentage. It doesn't make any sense because, one, the puns. I mean, if you just log into Twitter and type in Jake Burger and you just start scrolling, it's like, burger well done. I'll have that burger all the way. Who doesn't like to eat a burger? So you have to love the puns. First of all, that's why you have them on your team, to change your team name to like burgers or something fun like that. But the reason we're hitting you over the head is the man's power is legit. And that's always a stat. I don't care which fantasy league you play in, OPS, OBP, average. There's always a home run or some type of power, total bases, something of that nature. Jake Burger could be helping you out. Check out, as Codify Baseball put out just last week, check out his stat cast page. It is fun. Max exit velocity in the top 1%. Hard hit percentage in the top 10%. Average exit velocity in the top 10%. Expected slugging percentage in the top 3%. I mean, yes. Does he take a walk? Does he whiff a lot? Sure. Does he chase? Yeah. But everything else, when he hits it, oh yeah, it's fun. And he had a walk-off grand slam 6 days ago. Mm-hmm. How could you not root for the guy? The last 7 games, we have a 211 average, 286 OBP. Fine. Yeah. Like I said, it's going to happen. 3 home runs, 7 RBIs. That will play, sir. That will play. Yep. So please tell me, Jason, why people don't own more Burger.
I can't figure it out. I don't know why. We talk about it every week almost. I feel like we talk about Jake Burger because nobody wants to claim him off the waivers, which is just criminal at this point. 17% ownership is just absurd. Again, there's nothing more than just for the power numbers, right? And then you got to have a spot on your bench at least for Jake Burger. I mean, even if you're only starting him at home, right? Because right now it's like the splits are very concerning. Not concerning, but put him in the home game. Right now he's got 11 home runs at home versus 2 on the road.
Wow.
And that's a 329 average at home. And I think one of the other things that's kind of maybe overlooked too with Burger is, and maybe a lot of the power numbers is the guys on base, right? You're just talking about the grand slam. Over half of his home runs have been multi-run home runs. So like he's only got 5 solo home runs. So I mean, you're not only getting home runs, but you're getting the RBI totals from him too. So for whatever reason, I can't believe he's still under 20% owned. It's criminal at this point.
So what you're saying is he likes to bring his friends home.
Yeah, there you go.
But yes, if he's out there, I guarantee you either you have somebody on the bench that you don't need, or if you're in a multi-outfield league, and I'm sorry, 4 or more outfielders, there is no reason why Jake Burger should not be out there, unless somehow you are like in a 5-team league or something and you just have some crazy outfield stack. You should definitely have some Burger on your team. So, absolutely. All right, let's get to the new guys. And we start off by somebody who I feel isn't new because we've talked about Mr. Jesus Sanchez before, or at least we mentioned him. And he's back, sir. He's back and he's crushing the ball. Again, just log on to Twitter, search for Jesus Sanchez, and Mike Curland has some great things like the man, the myth, the legend in the making, Jesus Sanchez. Kevin Barrel, which is Kevin _ Barrel on Twitter, calls out just one of I love exit velocity. It's one of those stats that, yes, it doesn't help you necessarily in your fantasy. And I wish there was an exit velocity league. That'd be great. But listen to this home run. Exit velocity of 109.8 miles per hour, distance of 445 feet. I mean, just silly. But the key here, launch angle, right? 23 degrees. What we're seeing with Jesus Sanchez is he's starting to go opposite field. Alex Krutchik, CGN on Twitter, really called this out. He's going opposite field 39.2% this year versus 27.5% last year. And that really shows. I mean, if just looking at kind of the growth mindset, right? 2021, 26.7. 2022, 27.5. And then this year, he's over 35%. That just shows a completely different batter profile. And what we always talk about on the show, right, is can we find something to really hang our hat on? Is this something that's a real change, or is this just, a hot streak? Now, we write hot streaks here all the time, as you should in fantasy. But if you could find somebody that actually has some real changes to his batter or pitching profile, that's important as well, too. And honestly, I love his spray chart. I mean, it's a thing of beauty. You have, obviously, all of his pulls and that whole kind of alleyway for him. But then you start seeing all these opposite field home runs and opposite field doubles and other things like that. And that's where I start getting super excited. And also his graph for his expected on base and expected slugging is all trending up. This is a guy to get with a fun Marlins team. Jason, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that also, he's kind of had that top prospect tag on him for a while now, and then he just hasn't really either had a spot in that lineup, or when he does, he gets hurt. But he's now seemed back being healthy since being off the IL. He's been just on fire. And I think one of the crazy things too about him is he's not like a platoon eligible bat right now. It's a small sample size, but he's hitting lefties almost better than righties at this point, which is kind of shocking. A lot of times the lefties have troubles with the lefty pitchers. But yeah, he's only got 2 strikeouts versus lefty versus 27 against righties. Obviously, the sample size is a little bit off, but this just goes to show you only in those 13 plate appearances, only struck out twice against lefties. He's got over 1,000 OPS against lefties. That's one of those outlier, stats that might be overlooked. That you can kind of see this guy isn't overmatched. He's not going to be fooled. He's, like you said, talk about the spraying to all fields. That's another thing. It's like one of those statistics that, maybe it doesn't count on your fantasy lineup, but it just goes to show you where he's at mentally and where he's able with the skill set. It's needs to be owned for sure.
And that's the other thing too, you're calling out, right? In daily leagues, you're going to be a little less, prone to wanting to sit him, and having to really kind of watch his split because of his splits. Yeah. And if that kind of tells you, he could be an everyday player for you in fantasy, that's great, especially the weekly leagues where you really have to be careful and look at who you're starting if you have that opportunity because you have a deep enough bench. And so having that, definitely makes me feel a little bit better starting in weekly leagues as well. So going from one NL to the next NL, and we go to, honestly, I love this guy. I've loved him for a while, and I even wrote a novel about my love for some Joey Wiemer. And it's not just that he hits the ball hard; he's an amazing fielder as well. Our friend of the show, because I only talk about him way too much, and I text him probably a little way too much. Mike Kurland calls out that Joey Wiemer over the last 3 weeks, 65 plate appearances, that's about 19 games, 4 home runs, 4 stolen bases, 0 caught stealing, so a smart base runner, 288, 354, and a 576 slugging percentage. But here comes the fun part. 7% barrel percentage, which is okay, but 44.2% hard hit rate. And I mean, he's cutting down on chasing outside of the zone, which is, of course, something we definitely love to see. Anytime, they have a chance to kind of just see the ball, hit the ball, and crush the ball. And he looks like he's crushing fastballs, which is great. He's got a 282 batting average there, but he's kind of improved in some of these breaking ball percentages. Now, there's still areas there that I'm worried that pitchers are going to start, throwing in more breaking balls, and I'm hoping he's going to be able to, catch up to those, because we're still hovering around the Mendoza line on both of those off speed and breaking ball pitches. But, with an exit velocity, the launch angles at 11 degrees, and he's hitting the sweet spot on his bat at a 32% rate. So when he makes contact, he's making quality contact as well. The walks are about 9%. In the minors, he's been about 9, but really typically he's about double digits. And the K rate is 27%, which again, as we've talked many times in these shows, anything below 30% in this day and age seems to be where you want to have him. But if you have a guy who's already at almost 10 home runs, he's at 8, but he's at 10 stolen bases. So, double digit steals, double digit home runs, and he's, hitting almost 300 on base. This is a guy that I absolutely love, and I want to keep him all season unless something magical happens. Definitely think that this is a guy to keep for a while. And Jason, as always, please, sir, tell me some more Wiemer love.
It just seems like, the Milwaukee just had this big group of prospects that are finally starting to graduate and getting their playing time here at the major league level. And Joey Wiemer is just one of those, examples here. Great power speed combo, which is actually kind of crazy, because if you look at him, this dude is not like some speedster, but he's actually in the top 10% in sprint speed. He's a huge power speed combo guy. That's exactly what you're looking for in a fantasy asset. But yeah, he's like 6'4", 220. He's just like already at 10 stolen bases through 61 games or 62 games. So it's pretty I don't know, like an outlier almost, if you want. But this dude feasts on left-handed pitching right now. He's got 5 home runs and only 15 strikeouts against lefties versus 42 against righties. He's got a 1,100 OPS versus lefties. Obviously, he's a right-handed hitter, but this is a guy, like I said, there's been a group of these Milwaukee prospects that have kind of come up, and we've been waiting for, and he's kind of proving that he can play.
Yeah, I'm really excited as well, and so definitely Wiemer should be on everybody's waiver wire ad list if they're available. There's just absolutely no reason, even on three outfielder leagues, you should definitely add some Wiemer. Somebody who we're going to talk next is somebody who I think we've talked about quite a bit last year, especially, and it seems to come up constantly. But I feel like he's finally, I wouldn't say figured it out, because he's always kind of seemed like he has, but he's been on the field. He seems like he's not hurt, which is important. But Ke'Bryan Hayes is so much fun to watch on both sides of the ball. I mean, he's a great hitter, but his defensive approach is just phenomenal as well. When you look at the defensive index for National League, this is all positions. Ke'Bryan Hayes leads everybody with a 7.7. Just to give you an idea, the next couple names on the list: Tatis at 6.6, Swanson at 6.4, and then you have McMahon there at 5.9. So he's leading the next person by 1.1, which is just, it's a Grand Canyon when it comes to this kind of index, just to give you an idea. So we're looking at somebody who's going to be on the field even when he's slumping, because his defense is always going to help him out. It's something to think about, just because when it comes to picking up some of these waiver wire ads, you want to think, well, long term, are they going to be on the field or are they going to be replaced later on because of defensive replacement? Like Duran was last year because he was an absolute mess with the glove. These are the types of things you really want to think about. But Ke'Bryan Hayes is so good with the glove. There's absolutely no way they're going to be subbing him out for some defensive play. Now, let's talk about the part that we actually care about, and that is his offense. So MLB Twitter, I hate calling out the mothership there, the MLB, but they have such an awesome graphic. I just had to. It just caught my eye right away. So far in June, this is just stupid numbers. 17 for 29, which is a 586 average, 4 3+ hit games, and 9 RBIs. Just yesterday, he was 5 for 5, 4 RBIs, 3 home runs, and 2 doubles. But again, if you search for him, yes, you see some home runs and stuff, but you see his defensive web gems as well. And honestly, I love players that can pick up on both sides of the ball, right? I mean, if Arenado definitely comes to mind when you think of somebody who is great with the bat and great with the glove. So I love that. So he's in his 26-year-old season. We're looking at top 7% of the league in exit velocity at almost 93 miles per hour. His expected batting average is in top 7% of the league at almost 300 at 292. And frankly, he's just improving on almost every metric that he had when you start going deeper into his numbers. As his plate appearances increase, he's just getting better. So fastballs, for example, were kind of causing him issues. If you want to call it that, right? It was about a superstar. So he had 318 plate appearances and about 285 at-bats. And if you look at all the fastball events that he had a batting average about 256 against fastballs. He's at 288 this year. So he's figured out at least how to change up his swing a little bit against fastballs and pick up on them as well. And he's already had an almost increase of 7 miles per hour in exit velocity on fastballs. You're going to have pitchers who love their fastballs and they start feasting on them. And if you can show that you can, catch up to that velocity, that changes the dynamics a lot, especially late in games where you have a lot of these velocity-rich relievers. The other thing, too, is if you want to look at the breaking balls as well, again, in 2022, he was looking at about 35% of his plate appearances against breaking balls. He had, an expected slugging percentage of 346 or slugging percentage of 365, right? His slugging percentage against those wonderful pitches is now 416. So see ball, hit ball. he's just doing fun things out there. His K rate's below 17%. His ISO's up above almost a 160. I mean, we're looking at the real breakout of Ke'Bryan Hayes. If you didn't believe it, previously, where he only had 7 home runs last year in 136 games, right? He's already at 4. And so you can't be like, oh, it's the stolen bases. No, it's legit power. So he's getting to the ball finally in all types of pitches. They're not able to just kind of selectively like, oh, you can't hit a slider or you can't hit a high fastball. He's showing real improvements in all those different aspects. And it's not an inflated BABIP either, right? His batting average of balls in play is exactly the same, which is hilarious, as last year at 307. So 307 this year, 307 last year, and just vast improvements across the board. Jason, is there any reason why we shouldn't believe in some Hayes?
No, and I think it's kind of weird because, coming into the season, we saw him take that next step last year, right? Got the stolen bases. We were waiting on the power. He did get off to a little bit of a slow start this year. However, things have been turning around for him, and we've known that he's capable of these skill sets. We've just been waiting for him. And like I said, last year he took the stolen bases. The speed's legit. Right now his 5 triples leads all of baseball. He's got an advanced approach at the plate. He's only striking out 16% of the time. He's on pace for career highs in both runs and RBIs, and most likely home runs as well. I don't understand, and another thing too is like Pittsburgh, they just continue to put up crooked numbers game in and game out. Every time I look at this, I'm going through the MLB app every night, looking through, box scores and whatever. Here is another 7 runs. There's another 9 runs from Pittsburgh, right. 5 runs from Pittsburgh. It's like he needs to be rostered. The power and speed is there. I'm not sure why he's just getting, because like I said, going into this season, people were high on him. At least I was. We've been waiting for him to take this next step, and I think he's finally here to take that next step.
Do you think any of that happens to be because people are still kind of waiting for the bottom to fall out in Pittsburgh?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, they've been just that bottom of the barrel team that just doesn't produce, offensive numbers or even, wins for that matter. And yeah, I think that might be a lot of portion. I think because every week it seems like we're talking about another Pittsburgh Pirate player, right? It's like nobody wants to own these guys because they're just waiting for that hammer to fall, and they all just start hitting 180 again. I'm not sure, but I think that's a lot of it for sure.
Yeah, and I think also just the fact that everybody was okay with him being awesome on a bad team, but now that they're a good team or great team, depending on what metric you're looking at, they're like, well, maybe everybody's overperforming. Just I'm not sure what to do there. This is a legit superstar. You're watching a superstar to making. He's 26 years old. Absolutely no reason to believe in this breakout season long and in Dynasty. Well, Dynasty should be owned everywhere, but yes, absolutely. Keeper Hayes is an ad for sure. So going from one previous top prospect to another, who frankly goes to where every hitter should go to love, the joys of going to Colorado. Look, Nolan Jones was a top prospect at Cleveland. He got traded to Colorado, and everybody rejoiced. He got called up at Cleveland. He did okay. He wasn't doing top prospect things, but everybody got really excited when he went to Coors, of course. And now he looks like an absolute ad in every league. So I like to call it occasionally these smaller Twitter accounts as well, Sophisticated Ignorance, and that's an SPHSTCTZ Ignorance on Twitter. Nolan Jones is looking like an ad in every league he's available. Of course, he plays half of his games in Coors, but we're looking at somebody who's only 25 years old, and his StatCast page is super fun. And by that, I mean it's lots of red. Nolan Jones also just hit, and this is on June 7th, the second longest home run in MLB this season, but the most fun. When you see things like that, right? If somebody hits a really long home run, is go check out his StatCast page. So Baseball Savant, if you look at his spray chart, it's hilarious because you have all these singles on the opposite field and some line drive doubles when he pulled them, and then you see this red dot way out almost to the title of where it says hit spray chart, and that's where he hit that home run. He's hit two incredibly long home runs. He should have three. There's a double that's right by where that other home run was, so I'm really kind of wondering how that double occurred as well. We're seeing a absolute increase in his max exit velocity. He's in top 6% of the league at almost 114 miles an hour. Launch angle needs a little improvement. Last year was 15%. I mean, it's 15 degrees, and now he's at 11.6. So that's going to improve. But the best part here is the sweet spot percentage. He's hitting at almost 56% at 55.6. If you're hitting the sweet spot, you have power like Nolan does. And on top of that, you're hitting in a hitting ballpark like Coors, good things are going to happen. And with a hard hit rate of almost 48%, great things are going to happen. So just to give, again, the numbers here, he has 2 home runs in 13 games. He has 10 RBIs and 4 stolen bases. These stolen bases look legit. He loves the new rules, obviously, because I think in 2021 was his last time he had double-digit steals, and that was in AAA when he had 10. But when he was in AAA to start the season, just to give you an idea, again, that this is somebody who's angry to be in the minors and is going to probably want to work his way to stay in the majors as long as possible. When he was in the minors for 39 games this year, he hit 12 home runs, had 38 runs scored, 42 RBIs, and had a K rate of 23%. Now, the 23% K rate is in line with what he's done in the minors previously, where he's like 26, then he went up to 29 and 30 in the AAA. But he's always had an ability to really kind of be selective, and then it just kind of ballooned. And it's up there again. It's at 34% this year. But I see a person who is working hard this year. And again, he's only 25 years old. It's not like he's past his prime when, or he's in the 28. No, he's 25. And he's got the pedigree. and he's angry. I love it. All right, Jason, tell me some more Nolan Jones.
I mean, what more do you want? A power bat in Colorado. I mean, that's literally all you can ask for right there.
Done.
Power
Sign
bat
me up.
in Colorado. He's been kind of going up and down between, AAA and the majors. They keep bringing him up and then bringing him back down and keep flirting with his, service time. But he looks like he's here to stay right now. CJ Cron's dealing with back spasms. So they don't really, that's always going to be a tricky, injury going forward. We can't really, he's good at bat. The at-bats are going to be there, basically. He's on the strong side of a platoon. And at this point, it probably isn't even a platoon while CJ Cron's on the IL. He does strike out a lot, but which power bat doesn't? He's got a 244 ISO right now. He's reached safely in 10 of his last 12 games. I think right now what Colorado needs to do, which they don't ever really do except for, maybe Tovar, but let the kids play. Put them out there, see what they got. This is a guy that they traded for, mid-season last year. So this is something that they did want. They went out and got. So, I mean, let's see what he's got. Let's get him some at bats in Colorado. Like you said, that home run you're talking about was almost 500 feet. Granted, it was in Denver, but hey, we'll take it. Right? I mean, it's mammoth power, and that's all you want right now is mammoth power in Colorado. So absolutely add Nolan Jones.
Absolutely. So this is one of my early season sleeper picks, and it looked like it was dead in the water. Will Brennan with the Cleveland Guardians, and I'm going to try so hard to say the team name right through this segment, but Will Brennan looked like a great breakout pick. It was somebody I picked up in Dynasty, and then Miles Straw went crazy to start the season.
Always.
Yes. We actually called him out on one of our waiver wire pickups. We said, look, Miles Straw looks like he wants to supplant, this Will Brennan guy from taking over his slot. But we also have seen Miles Straw before, and, we don't expect his bat to suddenly show up because we didn't see any of the underlying stats to keep it there. Well, Will Brennan has started to play a lot more. Stephen Kwan is always going to be there, but if you look at the depth chart, he's a starter, and then he's second for Stephen Kwan and Miles Straw as well. So he's definitely starting to feel it at the plate. If John Anderson, John PGH on Twitter, the longest plate appearances streak since last strikeout. So, but you can't guess who number one is. Luis Arez at 28 plate appearances. But number two is Will Brennan at 25 plate appearances. I mean, I wouldn't say he's Luis Arez-esque, but he's trying his best right now. And frankly, if I could get somebody who's Luis Arez but hits home runs, well, hey, I'm happy. That's Will Brennan. No, I'm kidding. Well, right now, he's definitely being more selective, and he's showing a lot of other things as well. On his Savant page, right, he's in the top 90 percentile in K percentage. That's not in people that aren't able to not strike out. It's the opposite, right? It's people that are, that aren't able to strike out, that are being more selective when they're, see strikes and are hitting the ball and making contact. He has a beautiful spray chart. I mean, we're looking at balls all sides of the field, although his home run power is definitely on the pull side. So I was on the pull side. Yes, on he's a left-handed hitter. I was just double checking because I'm like, oh my god. But other than that, if you look at his underlying metrics, his max exit velocity has actually gone down. But his launch angle has gotten better. Right, he went from a 5% launch angle, which is just not good at all. You want to be about 11 to 15% would be, I believe, is kind of like the happy zone. He's at 9 degrees now. And that plus the keeping everything else the same, sweet spot percentage increased by about 2. You're looking at somebody who could definitely do damage when he hits the ball. He just needs to stay consistent because there are other players. The Guardians are so deep. Mm-hmm. That's one of those things that either guys just rise up and they become full-time players, which I was really afraid that Will Brennan wasn't going to do. When he started having those kind of early season issues, I was like, well, he's young. Maybe he's going to be a part-time player this year. He proved me wrong. I mean, he's really turned it around and continued. He's not pushing it because, again, we just saw that he's not striking out. He's keeping all of his underlying kind of metrics ready to go. And he's playing every day for a great team like the Guardians. I'm running out of kind of those hyperbole pieces, so I'm trying my best to just be a analyst here, talking to you normally on fantasy. But you're looking at a guy who's going to make contact, so that's good things happen. We care about it in fantasy, right? If he gets on base, he's going to steal bases. He has some speed, especially with the new rules. He has power too. When he hits the ball, good things happen. That sounds like a perfect fantasy profile for me. And seems like he's playing almost every day now. So as long as that continues to keep going, Jason, I think this is an ad in every league.
Yeah, and especially if you're playing in batting average leagues, because we're now seeing what we've always seen with Brennan in the minors. He's just always been that like high average guy, doesn't strike out a ton, gets walks, and now he's getting the at bats in the majors, and it's his game is transitioning. He's almost like that they love that profile in the outfield, right? You got the Steven Kwan, and now we got the Will Brennan, doesn't strike out a lot, puts the ball in play. And he right now he's batting 270, but his BABIP's only 290. So he's even getting a stroke, some bad luck in there. His batting average could probably most likely even go up more and over that 300 level. So
how is that possible?
I know. If you're in a batting average league, I mean, this guy, he could be in a 3. If you're in a batting average league with 3 outfielders, he should be an everyday player for you because he's playing every day for Cleveland. He's on the strong, even if he were to platoon, he's on the strong side of a platoon. And like you mentioned at the beginning, Miles Straw, this is the same thing we see from every year. Starts out, has an amazing April and May, and then just starts to fizzle off at the end of the season, which means more at bats for Will Brennan, higher batting average for Will Brennan. Add him in your leagues now. Like that was like a call to action right there.
Wow. I love that summary at the end. You didn't even leave any space there for just even a little bit of waffling. Yeah, Miles Straw is a guy who's hurt me many a time in Dynasty, especially when he was with the Astros, and I kept hoping, especially that's somebody who destroys the minors, quad A player, but has some amazing speed. So we talk about the subject that is always touchy for me, pitchers next. We have to throw a pitcher in here. And what easier layup in the world to do than pick a Guardians pitcher? So we have a Guardians hitter and a Guardians pitcher. Great. This is easy. So with so Joey Bell, TribeFan MCC on Twitter, calls out this amazing stat. The lowest ERA through 8 career games, minimum of 40 innings pitched. The last 100 seasons for the Cleveland Guardians. Now, we all know they have a incredible history with pitching. So to be on a list like this is pretty incredible. So we're looking at number 6 on the list is Logan Allen. We've talked about him before, and he's at 2.76. And just, let's see, another 6 below that. So I believe that's number 11 on the list. Tanner Bibee at 3.05. Now, I have to be honest with you. I don't have enough Tanner Bibee in my life. And I tried desperately to pick him up in Dynasty, and I missed Tanner on a lot of Dynasty drafts. And that's on me. I got caught up on some other names like Tiedemann. I got caught up on just some other pitchers, and Bibee has come out and destroyed AAA and then came up to the majors. He's had 8 games already. That's the thing that kind of flew under the radar for me. I felt like he just got called up. And that's again, my fault. I follow way too much baseball, but I felt like it was just like, 3 games ago or 4 games ago. No, he's had 8 starts. So 44 innings pitched. He has a 8.5 K per 9 and a 2.4 walk per 9. Again, this is a Cleveland Guardians pitcher, which is, of course, something to think about because, pitching precision and control is always a hallmark of, the pitching staff with the Cleveland Guardians. That K per 9, though, I really feel is going to be coming up here soon because he's been at 11 K per 9 in the AAA just this year. 9.9 in AA and 13 at the high A. So it's something that I definitely think we should keep an eye on as well because I expect that to go up. But in every other aspect, right? If you have somebody who's going to be controlling the ball, up for wins because he's with the Guardians, so definitely there's always going to be the wins there. quality starts as well. I think this is somebody who is going to be a young, great arm. The only thing, and I was trying to look at this while we were setting up this morning. The only thing I was concerned about was, is he going to have an innings cap? But last year he had almost 150 innings. So if you add the 15-20% there, you're looking at 170. That's a pretty good chunk of the season. Even if they move him into some high leverage role just to like cap his innings or an opener or something like that, you're still going to have somebody that's going to be making quite a number of starts. So I wouldn't be worried as I would be with some of these other young arms that had 110, 120 innings pitched last year. This is somebody who can definitely go up into the 170s safely with that percentage. So with that being said, and because I am not the biggest fan of picking pitchers because I seem to have bad luck with them lately, Jason, tell me this is still a good pick.
This is absolutely still a good pick. Like you said, you just nailed it on the head. There's going to be no inning. Well, I wouldn't say there's no inning cap, but the inning cap won't be as small as some of these other guys. This is a guy that was drafted out of college, who was a college arm. He wasn't a high school prep arm. He's had those experience of getting those innings. And honestly, he might arguably within the last at least month might be Cleveland's best pitcher right now. Wow. He's been very consistent. He's only given up 4 earned runs or more once in those 8 starts. And then if you look at, the ERA's running around 3, a little over 3, but his FIP right now is right in line with that ERA, meaning that like he's not relying on some great defensive plays or defensive metrics to, get those earned, keep that ERA down. So, and then especially in a year right now where we're just desperate for pitching and looking anywhere in the waiver wire for pitching, the fact that he's still unowned in 60% of leagues is shocking to me. Right. You just nailed it. Cleveland pitchers, Cleveland depth. It's always been there. It always will be there. I don't understand why this guy's not. I have many shares of Tanner Bibee, and I run him out. And at the beginning, you bring him up, you're like, I don't know what I'm going to get from this guy. Right now, I am in weekly leagues. I am firing him up with confidence every week, even on 1-start weeks. I mean, this guy right now is the epitome of consistency. He needs to be owned and started in all your leagues.
Well, as always, we cannot thank you enough for watching. We love doing this. This is absolutely one of the highlights of our week. Drop us a comment, shoot us, a question on Twitter, and we'll be happy to try to answer it on our next show. And as always, Jason, you're the man. Thank you so much for letting me, be a part of your team. Thank you all so much for watching.